Hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Future Podcast. Um, as our introduction has already stated, I'm Aaron Alexander, and with me, I have my dear friend Mahat Mangal. Today, we are going to be talking about government structures and various ideas on how we can um, address shortfalls that we face in the government and exploring various concepts. So I would like to invite Mahat just to start off the conversation.
Thank you so much, Aaron, for that
Right.
wonderful
This becomes
invitation
way too fucking formal, man. Yeah,
to
anyways,
our own podcast.
yeah. Oh my God. Good point. Yeah, please continue. Yeah.
So we're basically looking at how governance works, how um, government formed, how state formed. I was looking at stuff like that. So what forms a state in, people always say there is state has a different meaning from the smaller territory within a country. So in political science, a state should basically have like four essential components. It should have a territory, it should have a population that lives in that territory,
Mhm.
there should be a government to govern that land, to
Mhm.
make laws,
Mhm.
and then the fourth one is sovereignty. Sovereignty is basically that other countries, other states
Recognize
should
it.
recognize. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
So these four components form these are the four elements of a state.
Mhm.
So I was looking at uh,
Okay.
whether like yeah, sorry.
I thought before you went deeper, I'll also like give a brief on what
Yep.
I have worked on. So I want to speak about um, whether we can implement the blockchain to execute the functions of the government, whether the whole yeah whether the whole governance function can be executed using the blockchain. That's what I want to be looking at.
The blockchain would be the futuristic take, I guess. I mean,
Mhm.
and I would be talking more about how historically or like
Hmm.
how it is now, and
Yep.
maybe Aaron can help us understand a little bit about how blockchain might be able to help us.
Yep.
So yeah, so there was a question whether like should a country be large or should it be small? So
Mhm.
large state versus small state problem. So
Mhm.
you might say like, I mean, obviously there are disadvantages and for both of them and advantages. So India, like a country like India, is pretty big. We are like seventh in our land size, I guess,
Mhm.
in the world. So what it comes with is a lot of resources are there. It has more population,
What resources? What resources do you think
nat-
India has?
both natural and even human.
Mhm.
Look at it.
Not
The
being
more country you
utilized.
have,
Yeah.
yeah, that's true. So you have more natural resources that gives you more opportunities for economic development. So
Mhm.
more money. So that goes on like more developed. There is more chance for development if you have more resources. But whereas if you're in a smaller country, you have a lesser working population, you have lesser resources. You are militarily you're weak.
Mhm.
You can be conquered and
Sorry,
invaded.
I need to interrupt. I just have a question on what would you say are the natural resources of India? Like
India, I mean, plenty,
cotton,
man. I mean,
okay,
India's
coal.
even coal is mainly, yeah. Coal,
Mhm.
even India is even now heavily dependent on coal for its energy.
Mhm.
Look at all the forests we have, all the wildlife that we have, all the
Yeah.
variety, the how
Okay.
diverse our land is.
Mhm.
We have seas, we have deserts, uh, we have the Himalayas,
Mhm.
we have everything. We have a different variety of ecosystems, different kinds of animals, flowers.
Yep.
So all of this would be coming under resources. So and
Right.
on
Right.
top of that, steel,
Okay.
things like
Good.
that.
Good. Please continue.
So that is that debate whether you should have a smaller state. So if you look at the Europe, you can see a lot of small states,
Mm-hmm.
which like take the Vatican. Vatican is a very unique example, but it's not a state in the sense that we said.
Mm-hmm.
It is sovereign, but it's not a member of the UN.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't involve itself in international politics.
Mm-hmm.
That makes it special.
Mm-hmm.
Case of a small state. But if you look at Europe generally, you have small states when compared to India or the US or
Mm-hmm.
Brazil. There are these
Mm-hmm.
giant states, and Russia, of course.
Mm-hmm.
So governing these countries also become harder
Mm-hmm.
when the area is bigger. You need levels of government.
Yep.
Whereas with Switzerland and all, it's small enough to be managed. And even though what how they made their money is by becoming tax havens, and that is what made them rich with
Mm-hmm.
the what they don't have in natural resources. They somehow manage to turn around using tax laws and banking.
Mm-hmm.
So states like Switzerland, there are countries like Andorra, Luxembourg. So many European countries are tax havens, and they derive their money from there. They derive their economy mainly from those. So, and yeah, even coming back to Switzerland, they have a different kind of government where the individual has more power in what the law should be doing. They always go for a referendum whether to
What does
decide
that
on
mean?
laws,
Okay.
like just a general voting
Mm-hmm.
on each law.
Mm-hmm.
So
On each
that,
law, meaning, like, do you have examples?
like, I don't have any example on top of my head, but uh, like major laws when they bring in,
Mm-hmm.
the people go into a vote. So basically, referendums are held in. I mean, whenever there's a conflict. If you
Yeah.
look at Kashmir, they wanted a referendum. That's a historic event. Then, so the people choose Brexit referendum. People
Mm-hmm.
choose what should we
Right.
do.
Okay.
These are decided through referendums.
That happens in India as well. Just my
It
ignorance.
happened not in modern India, but it happened in during the independence, and after that, some states didn't want to join the Republic of India. So the people there were asked to
Voted for
vote.
that.
Where
Okay.
would you like to join India? Would you like to remain? So
Okay.
that is a tool that is used often.
Okay. Cool.
So these things happen in smaller states, so in governance. So, but in case of India, if you look at it, it's gonna be a hassle. I mean, you can't ask everyone. Imagine asking 1.2 billion people. I mean, not everyone, of course, but say 700 million maybe, excluding kids, and it's hard. So there own challenges for both the states, small or large. So yeah, I would say there should be an ideal size somewhere in between. An ideal size for the states, yeah. So that is the large state versus small state problem.
Okay. It would be very interesting to look at like how do you think we can measure the success of a government? It's like the happiness of the
Success of
people. Um, because like in this whole like if we are looking at big states and small states, it would be useful to compare uh, various states and see like what type of models are working, what aren't.
Mhm.
Obviously, we have large governments. I guess it wouldn't be a stretch to say that some people will agree that the U.S. democracy might be at a breaking point in some sorts. We seem to be having a lot of conflict and a lot of distrust or doubt about the system. I'm not sure how Russia is functioning. Large landmass. They've got a large landmass. I'm not sure how much of that is populated. Um, I believe
Yeah,
it will be.
it's not very populated. No, in Russia is like the most of the population is on the east. Sorry, the
East,
west.
west. Okay.
West. So
Okay.
the eastern part, the Siberian was like very what sparsely populated. So yeah, they have a lot of resource, but then again, see, it's too big. And I would say it is beneficial. Like Russia is definitely too big in my mind. I mean, it's too big of a state.
Okay.
If it's not benefiting the people who are living there, if they're not happy, I mean, I'm not one to say this, but yeah, I would prefer smaller states, I guess. But Russia is such a huge player in the world.
Hmm.
You know, their military presence, they have their influence is huge. Like they have access to the north, to the ice, not North Pole.
Do,
It's
do, do you see any reason why like having like smaller states would be bad? Like, can you think of any cons? Like, just hypothetical situation. Imagine Russia broke down into their like miniature jurisdictions. Um, yeah. What do you think? Do you think that's
yeah,
beneficial or?
that's one disadvantage. You don't have enough. You might not have the military might,
Mhm. I
but
don't
then
think I
you
don't think
can.
we want that anyways.
Yeah. So no, okay, in the current world though, it is that is how it's working. No, so people look at how many guns they have, and they don't attack. So deterrence. Uh, but smaller states, of course, will get into agreements and treaties with other nations.
Hmm.
So I believe their strength comes in, being in all these multilateral forums like EU
Hmm.
or NATO. So you work as like if you, I always say this to my friends, like the best way to look at India is like it's a mini EU,
Oh, okay.
So
Hmm.
there are so many different states, so many different cultures, languages, food, everything is different. So it's like they are trying to be one unit. So that's European Union. And
I
there is
never thought
one
of it like that.
overarching government. Yeah. So that might be one disadvantage and lack of resources.
Hmm.
So and you can always be landlocked. You don't have access to sea, port. So that means you can't do much trade.
Hmm.
So there are disadvantages like that. So it's always better to have all of these, but you also need good governance to maximize, potential.
Okay. So I was thinking like there even if like we decide that smaller states are better, I think it might be a natural tendency for humans to start partnering together. There might be like strategic benefits, and I think eventually we'll just end up evolving the structure to result in what we have today. Again,
Yep.
um, yeah,
Cooperation,
and
strategic cooperation. Yep.
I think for a large country, I think the most common form of governance will be it shouldn't come as a surprise. It's basically going to be delegation, right? We're going to have a head, and then they delegate the responsibility of the smaller regions. Yeah, I think that's the most common structure, and I think that's what I want to attempt at tackling today with the whole decentralization and blockchain part of my topic.
All right.
Very funny. Who knows if it can be implemented, but let's say it can be. Uh, Basically, the government is an app. On your
Government is an
phone.
app.
The government is an
Okay.
app, yes.
Let's see. Let run me through this. Okay.
Oh God. Yeah, so everything's in the code. Um, Obviously, like the challenges are in scaling it and like how do you I was thinking this system wouldn't have a head, like there is no elected leader or anything. Um, So it's basically a platform. People can submit their thoughts or their wishes or like things that they want to change. And I like one thing that I thought that might make it easier is obviously if people type in like natural language, like large sentences, it might be difficult for like artificial intelligence, at least at this current stage, to classify that. Like there might become a lot of clutter. So I mean,
Okay, wait. You're
yeah,
telling like about if I type in something
yeah.
in English,
Hmm.
that's what you mean by natural language, right?
I mean, like a sentence, like so
Like the
there
spoken
might
language
we might
and
have
not the
citizens.
programming languages. So no way. So
Obviously, we don't want citizens to be typing and programming language.
yeah, they can't.
I meant like instead of having users tell a whole story like today I had an argument with my neighbor because the water ran out and like la 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 la, and so this is my proposed solution. So I think it's the citizens if like they input just keywords. I really like that song. I don't know if you guys can hear it. Can you hear it?
Vaguely, there's some noise, but yeah.
Can't remember the name of the song. Anyways, it's a nice song. Yeah, so keywords. Entering keywords, and then I think like we can have an artificial
So
intelligence model that classifies it.
okay,
And so based on the classification of like various inputs from our citizens, it gets ranked, and that kind of gives us a priority sense for the community at large. So that's like one aspect of things.
okay. Just to quickly ask one thing, or just to observe one thing. I mean,
Mhm.
we have been seeing how certain political parties have manipulated uh, Twitter and trending systems and all using IT
Mhm.
cells in India. So that's a form of hijacking a
Yep.
programmed environment. So um, do you think this could happen with decentralization and putting it on the app, and you think it could be manipulated easily by a large number of people if they are not
So I can think
well
I can think of
informed?
I can think of number of solutions to that. The first one that I'll present right now is the blockchains that we have right now itself. Uh, they have already worked on solutions that prevent bad actors, because pretty much every decentralized platform that we have right now allows token holders to vote. And like again, I cannot get into the technicals of it, but I believe a solution is there on the technical side on how to prevent bad actors from getting away with it. And also, I think certain things, like for example, maybe someone would just purchase multiple phones to create multiple votes or multiple inputs. I think that can be quite easily solved using something that we already have, which is a national ID system. So it's like a unique identity, like one person has just one ID, cannot be logged in multiple times unless you kidnap someone and hold them at gunpoint and tell vote for this. That's another problem. So that's something else. Um, any questions? I can move on to something
Yeah,
else
yeah,
that
yeah.
is
Like, I'm not really
convinced.
not that like in I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, like in current crypto system, like how token holders of like say Ethereum or Cardano crypto
Mhm.
ecosystems like that, they
Yeah,
you said they punish bad actors,
yep.
but
I'm not
in
sure if it's
crypto
punishing.
there is a
It's something else.
financial stake in there's something, financial, the money is at stake
Mhm.
that you invested. So when it comes to governance, unless people are somehow, unless they understand that their decisions can alter, the outcome in the society and what the government is going to do next.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they will act in this ideal manner. Like, I don't know. For me, it seems like too
Realistic.
perfect, too ideal,
Perfect.
too, yeah. I
Um,
mean, I don't
I,
know if it's India is ready for it yet.
I
We're
don't think
talking mainly
India
about
has
just
to be ready. I think the government has to be ready, the existing government. Oh, I had like I think I had a bombshell of an insight I could share here.
yeah.
I think in this whole concept, like I said that, there's no one head in this world that I'm describing.
Hmm.
So anyways, the bombshell that I wanted to share was like um, we don't provide incentives to people who are in power. I think that's something that we have in our current structure, right? People in power are like our leaders are given a lot of perks by the system itself.
Yep. Yep.
So that
And I,
that incentivizes people to get to that position just for those perks. And I think that beats the whole purpose. I mean, it was probably well intentioned in the beginning to try and get, to prevent a brain drain. But I think now people are just taking advantage of it. So like
yep.
what I thought of was like, in this system, people pretty much like whatever ideas they have, it's for the system, it's for the community. So like if you have a good idea, it's like for example, like you type it into the app and it's literally absorbed by the system. Like there's no individualistic reward. It's like a blanket reward.
I mean, I would like to see this world someday in future.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. Yeah,
Um.
but when you said something about perks and all that, mm,
Mhm.
also in Switzerland, they consider politics like a part-time job.
Mhm.
Like it's not their full-time job. So and the incentives are like really low. Like it's something that extra that
Yeah.
person does.
Yeah.
So because it's such a low-paying job and not much incentives, only the people who really want to do something come. Like
Mhm.
most of them at least. Of course, there'll be corrupt ones. I'm pretty sure. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone's
Safe to assume.
it's everywhere. But
Yep.
yeah, but yeah, that's a good system. But that can happen only in like smaller areas.
Mhm.
And it's really hard to change a system. That's already in place.
Mhm.
So I think we are like stuck. Like we are in a period where yeah, civil wars still happen in countries, but
So
that's
is there
almost
is there too
always
much
for
disturbance? So like a group has come and sit next to me.
no,
Can
no,
you?
it's fine.
It's fine. Cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So what was I saying?
It might be possible in a smaller system.
Yeah, it might be possible in a smaller state,
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard to change the system. No? Like civil wars happen, but they're all for
Right.
like economic reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time, it's economic and recent times. So, and I mean, I hardly see any change happening in these structures.
I would
Like
say that
nobody.
I would say that's what you're fighting for. That's what you're trying to change. I think they're
Yeah,
getting louder now.
it's fine. I can't hear them. Yeah, yeah, all
Okay.
good.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, so like I mean, going with your idea, like if I have an issue of water scarcity in my location, so I believe this could work probably in levels of local self-government in India. I mean, talking in terms of India again, but in advanced Western world and all, this might be even more possible. Right? Of
I'm
decentralization.
just curious about how one thing would play out. Um, which is no, actually, I don't think it will be a problem. So imagine someone types out a niche thing.
Okay.
Like, how would that be brought to the spotlight? But I hope so. Like, if it's something for the common good, it's probable that more than one person would input that onto the system. So I think by that very effect, it would come into the spotlight, that issue. So I don't think that should be much of a problem. And the really like rare eggs who come up with something unique that no one else has thought of, I'm sure they'll find a way to implement it.
Unique keywords.
Yeah.
I might have a separate section, but okay. Not
I
to
have
be like the pessimist here, or
no, we need it.
I see people hijacking
How?
systems. Like I said earlier, if you can hijack Twitter, narrative online, you can just pay the same people somehow, unless we put in like you said, like some really good filters and to stop people. And I mean, like if the majority of the people demand for something that is not, let's say, secular, according to the rules, you have to go with the majority's interests. So it's like a number of, I mean, game of numbers. Is it like that? The
I
majorities.
suppose
I see. I see
I
like religious lines and all becoming like more prone to be hijacked, unless
again
people are well informed.
I don't think so. What I'm proposing is just a change of medium. Um, and I don't think if that had to happen today, it's still possible. Like, I don't think anything is stopping extremists from taking out. Like, if the idea spread enough, they would take control. So I think it's the same. It would be the same situation on the world that I'm talking about.
So wait, you're saying so it would be the same like Twitter.
No,
Are you
not like
agreeing
this.
with me?
Not like Twitter. I mean, like, democracy, or like what's happening in India. If some particular idea, something that's not secular, uh, is adopted by a large enough number of people, they could like vote someone that they want into power, and then it's their world. That could even happen today, I suppose. It's possible, like a coup of sorts. Coup. I'm
When you
not
say the word,
I'm
I mean,
not
yeah, that tangent. Let's go.
I'm not
Yeah.
sure of like the exact issue of like what happened on Twitter. Like, what is the specific thing that you're trying to address?
Uh, like any issue comes up, there will be a hashtag trending. That's like totally against what is actually happening. Like students being called terrorists, or there was this time when Greta Thunberg, remember that toolkit?
Got
What is
told.
that controversy? The farmers' protests in Punjab,
Uh-huh.
in Delhi.
Mhm.
So it went on like to say that when Greta Thunberg and Rihanna retweeted the thing, it suddenly became an issue of India's internal matter. Even Sachin Tendulkar retweeted. You didn't come across
Yeah,
this, maybe?
yeah.
Yeah.
It's coming back.
So there was a tweet that was like carefully written, and all the celebrities were puppets of the government and the parties. So they retweeted it. There was all these hashtags trending. So it was a total misrepresentation of what was really happening. And yeah, that was what it was very uh, disappointing to see Sachin and all like retweeting that, taking a stance with BJP and their agenda.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I think can happen in a decentralized. But I'm not no expert in crypto, so there
So
must be brilliant minds out there who can probably. solve these issues?
So I think there's like 2 points or maybe more that I'll bring up right now. One is like what you're talking about right now is pretty much human nature. It's like even if Twitter didn't exist, it's not hard to imagine a politician in the real world in a rally being able to convince multiple people, influential people, whatever, um, and spreading the word, spreading false information that can happen in the real world as well. And also something very important, and especially like Elon Musk, he's been highlighting this recently for quite a while, which is free speech.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if we want to be putting barriers for like people on what they can say or what they shouldn't say. So like even if such an whatever he was influenced, it's his own words. That came out very simply. So I don't
Right.
think we have to try to
So,
control those things, those thoughts. And also, I think I would like to point out that like the system that I'm talking about is not social media, but I can see how it would be gamed using the same logic.
yeah. I mean, recently that free speech thing came in when he let he gave Starlink access to Ukrainians, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that is
Right,
brilliant.
right. I think people are asking him to block some sites, something like that,
Yeah, the
and then
US was asking Elon Musk to not let Russians use this thing. I think
and he
so.
replied saying sorry, but like he's a
Free
absolutist
speech.
with regards to free speech.
Yeah,
And I think like that's the only way you can be. And I think that kind of like it's a way of us letting go of control, and it's leaving it up to like natural evolution, I suppose. I would like to move
yeah.
on to some other topics.
Just yeah. I mean, that
I
was
mean,
also reminding
yep.
how they say in a funny way, like free speech. There's freedom of speech, but that's guaranteed. But the freedom after speech, it's not guaranteed.
Mm-hmm.
So we could see even in like Russia. I mean, Russia. We saw that war veteran, that old, not war veteran. She was a survivor of Nazi camp. So an old lady.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she was protesting for no war, against the war,
Mm-hmm.
and then police came and escorted, arrested her, and took her home. So there are sometimes free speech, even if it's a good thing that you're putting it out. Sometimes the government is too powerful. They won't agree with your ideas, so might put you in trouble with the government. So there's always that risk. There's always a line that you can't cross with free speech. I don't know how to define it.
Yeah.
Subjective.
I
Yeah, move on. I mean, you're moving on to something.
yeah. I hope we can come to a point where um, everyone has the liberty of freedom and they're not scared to say what they want, and that everything can be um, addressed through debate. I think that's one of the greatest signs of um, superior beings, like being able to communicate. So hopefully we can cultivate that skill more. Anyways, what I was trying to move on to, like I was just personally exploring the viability of such a system of that, like I described. And one scenario that I worked through was obviously everything is decentralized. So, but someone has to execute the functions of a government. Like there are still vital activities that have to be done. So I was just thinking like how will that be done? And sounds silly to say, but I was basically thinking of it will be a sort of a job posting thing. And if no one volunteers to complete the task, um, I think like the reason why I chose for it to be voluntarily, like activities to be voluntarily taken up, is because um, I would like to see a world where people choose to do what they want to do and not like being forced based on their circumstances or lack of money, whatever. So based on natural interests, maybe strategic interests, they can choose activities. And then I thought of a scenario where, okay, let's say something like no one, there were no takers for a certain task. I think it will just be left undone if it's really crucial, really important. The posting will be up again, and someone who is directly affected by it will feel the urge to take it up themselves and get it done. So I think this thing is just relying on natural instincts to keep the system moving. So that's just, I guess, one facet or one that I kind of broke out of just to see like how it would be executed.
Mhm.
And also another thing that I thought of was like how possible is it that from the current government we can actually switch on to a government like this? So
That's my point. I don't mean switching. Switching
yeah,
is really hard. Changing systems.
I think the only
Changing
possible
systems without losing lives.
yeah, I think that the only potential way is change of leadership. I don't think there's any other way, or like
Yeah.
influence of the incumbents, like influencing the incumbents. It's all tough work, but yeah, yep,
I,
you have
I
thoughts.
with generational change, it will come. Like recently, the Chile elected its youngest president.
Mm-hmm. Cool. I think that's a
But
sign of change.
yeah, yeah, he's only what 36 years old. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Gabriel Boric. So he's just
36.
36.
Okay. And he
Congrats to
is
him.
running the country.
Party. Yeah,
Amazing.
I mean that is, and he's like very climate. He's signing laws that are like very climate
Which
aware.
country again?
Chile.
Chile.
That's something good. Chile.
Sorry.
That's something good. There
Uh-huh.
is some. I mean, it is bound to happen, but it's good to see that age bar is also coming down. 36, he's the president. That's good signs. And there are few leaders like that, and Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand. Big props to her and her vice president. So, vice president, prime minister, two women running the country. They've been doing good. So, there are leaders who do give me hope. But the majority is yet to change, and I feel like uh, we need. I mean, climate change is in the background, man. We are running out of time, and we are like changing leadership, changing ideals, policies, and bigger problems are waiting. So, yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, I think that's about it. I'm out of points as well.
yep.
Um, I would again like to just bring up what I said earlier. There is no glorification. Like I've like written it down and I've underlined it. It's like no glorification of self.
No
So
glorification of self.
yeah, like politicians, like people who are in governance, then they should not be doing it to personal um, whatever wealth, increasing their own
Yeah.
self. Yeah.
Plato wrote there's this work of Plato called The Republic. So in that he says about the philosopher king. In his mind, the king should have been a philosopher who is very knowledgeable and ideas like that were there back in ancient Greece.
And I
And there
hope
was this another idea called the communism of wives. Like Peter,
wives.
wife, yeah,
Okay.
communism of wives,
Mm-hmm.
where he says one shouldn't have any personal materialistic belongings. So that's the broader idea. So communism of wives also basically means that one shouldn't have even wives as attached. They shouldn't even have women like as what do you say?
No, I wouldn't
Uh,
go
it
so
talks
far
about like
because
shared thing and not like
that's my bus stop. That's where I get off.
yeah. So there were all these ideas of not
because
having
because obviously
worldly possessions, worldly attachments to people and those you care about, and things like that. So in his mind, the leader should have been like very. It's very
that's
idealistic, yeah. But then
that's
it's an
interesting, but like the reason I wouldn't do that is because I feel we have to be engaged in our current life form, and I think that allows you to take the best decisions for everyone. Like that allows you to understand what everyone is facing better. If you like cut off yourself completely from worldly pleasures, I think at a certain point you like people will just be like, what are you talking about? And like I think you'll stop addressing their issues
you
potentially.
lose touch with life.
Yeah, maybe that might happen.
Yeah, interesting.
Maybe not. Maybe such a highlighted person would realize that and correct for it, but yeah, can't say.
Yeah. So
And
yeah, that's it.
one more point,
Anything
like
else?
so, I just like I don't have much to talk about it, but I just want to put it out there. So I was comparing this whole system to the blockchain, and something that does happen in current blockchain systems is hard forks.
Okay.
Um, and if that happens in a government, I don't really like imagine someone like you know the concept of a fork, right? Hard fork. Yeah.
You need to explain it to me.
So
And for the
I think one of the most common example or popular example is what happened with Bitcoin. Uh,
okay.
I can't explain it very well. I don't think I can explain the process exactly, but I'll compare it to voting. And so basically, I think maybe 2017, 18, before that maybe, there
Okay.
was some change in the in the Bitcoin network that the uh, I don't know what's correct term for the people, whoever the stakeholders of the Bitcoin network, uh, somewhere for that change, somewhere against. So the people who are against the change, uh, they hard forked. That means they created their own version of the network, and that is what is currently known as Bitcoin Cash. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, that was a hard fork from Bitcoin.
So you,
Um,
basically, a group of people who disagree with another group and they like
yeah,
diverging and
yep,
basically splitting up, right?
yep, yep.
And
And
forming their
but there are so for example, one of the coins that I am invested in, it's called Neo. They have it's called one block finality. So basically,
okay
hard forks are impossible
in
um,
that system, in that particular system.
in this blockchain. But I guess that's up for debate whether you want hard forks or not. So, anyways, what I concluded was like I don't think hard forks should happen. I think any disagreements need to be finalized and agreed upon, like either
Yeah, in terms of
compromised, and yeah, I don't think we need
in
to move
terms of
into separate groups.
yeah, in politics called civil war, I guess.
Yeah, it could
Civil war and
potentially could lead to
secession.
that. Yep.
Succession, yeah. So you don't want to split up.
Yep. And
But splitting up might be good for certain large states. Like, yeah.
okay, I think to address a certain concern I had with like preventing splits, like we would still want people to explore different ideas. So there should be enough slack in the network or enough space in the network to enable experimenting. So that should be there. Anyways, that's about it. I think I'm tired of talking. Yeah.
Hopefully, our listeners are tired of listening and thinking.
To
Yeah. Anyway,
the certain few
we,
that did get here, thank you for sticking around.
yep.
And I think a point that I want to address right now is like I can feel throughout our conversations that the modularity of our voice becomes quite monotonous. Like we talk in the same tone, so I think that might make it difficult for people to stay engaged. Um, so, but I
Look at us,
think that
people. We're doing open criticism. Drop your comments and thoughts.
yes, please.
What do you think we can improve? If you have listened this far, so thank you so much. Thanks a lot. This does mean a lot to us. Yeah. So yeah, like, subscribe, and hit that bell button so that the algorithm can help us.
I think like this problem that I just described is true for any technical conversation. So at one angle, I'd say like only those who are really interested will sit through this. But on another angle, obviously we want uh, a larger audience. So I think we'll have to kind of study successful podcasters who do have long form conversations and talk about technical stuff, but how they keep it engaging. I
Yeah, I
think,
mean, we should do an episode on how we decided to start and how we met and how the whole MCC
yeah,
story and
yep.
soon enough. So yeah, that's it. Thank you, and yeah, have a good night, good day, wherever you are, whatever you're doing.
One for the thumbnail. Okay, bye.